Okay, Jake, I want to start today with a question that I think is going to hit a lot of people very personally.
Those are my favorite kinds of questions. What is it?
Have you ever felt something so strongly, something so real and so present inside you, but when someone asked you how you were feeling, you could not find the words for it?
More times than I would like to admit, honestly.
Yes, me too. And I think this is one of the most underrated struggles of speaking English as a second language. Because when you cannot name what you are feeling, it is not just a language problem. It actually makes the feeling harder to process, harder to communicate, and sometimes harder to get through. Because naming something gives you a kind of power over it.
That is actually a deeply important psychological insight. There is real research that shows that being able to name an emotion reduces its intensity. When you can say, I am feeling overwhelmed right now, something in your brain shifts. You've identified it. You've separated yourself from it slightly. And that separation creates space to respond to it rather than just being consumed by it.
Yes, and in English specifically, there are so many words for such specific emotional experiences that most learners have never encountered. Words that describe feelings everyone has, but most people are walking around unable to name in English.
And today we are going to change that. Welcome, everyone, to Real Talk Podcast. I'm Jake, and this is Mia, and today we're doing one of the most personal episodes we've ever recorded. English words for feelings you have every single day, but cannot explain. By the end of this episode, you will have a vocabulary for your inner life that you have never had before. And that vocabulary will change not just your English, but how you understand and communicate what you are actually going through.
Okay, Jake, let us start with the big one. The one I hear most often and I think is the most misunderstood. Overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed is one of those words that people use but often underestimate the depth of. To feel overwhelmed means to feel completely submerged by the sheer volume of things you are dealing with at once. Too much to think about, too much to do, too much to feel, and your capacity to handle it all has been exceeded. The image is of a wave that is simply too large to stand against. It washes over you completely.
Yes, and overwhelmed is so different from just being busy, right?
Completely different. Busy is external, lots of things to do. Overwhelmed is internal, the feeling that the volume of what you're facing has exceeded your ability to manage it. You can be overwhelmed with joy, overwhelmed with gratitude, overwhelmed with grief. It's not always negative, but it always means the feeling is too large for you to contain comfortably.
Yes, I was overwhelmed with emotion when I heard the news. That is a beautiful use of it.
Exactly. And in professional life, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed right now is one of the most honest and most useful things you can say to a manager or a colleague. It's not a complaint. It's a clear communication about your current capacity. And most good leaders will respond with support rather than judgment.
Okay, next one. And this one I have felt so many times but never had the word for it. Conflicted.
Conflicted is such an important word. To feel conflicted means to have two or more feelings or desires that are pulling you in opposite directions at the same time. You want two things that cannot both be true simultaneously. And the tension between them creates a kind of internal conflict that is genuinely uncomfortable.
Like when someone offers you an amazing opportunity, but taking it would mean leaving something or someone you love.
Exactly. The opportunity excites you, the loss terrifies you, and you feel them both at the same time. That simultaneous pull in opposite directions is feeling conflicted, and it's important to name it because conflicted is not the same as confused. Confused means I don't understand. Conflicted means I understand, but I can't choose because both feel true.
Oh, that distinction is so important. Confused means I don't understand. Conflicted means I understand, but I can't choose because both feel true.
Exactly. And most of the big decisions in life involve feeling conflicted because the big decisions are almost never between something good and something bad. They're between two things that are both good in different ways or both right for different reasons.
Okay, next one. Anxious, because I think a lot of people confuse anxious with nervous.
Great distinction to make. Nervous and anxious are related but different. Nervous is usually about a specific upcoming event. I'm nervous about my presentation tomorrow. There's a clear cause, a specific thing. And once the presentation is over, the nervousness usually goes away.
And anxious is different.
Anxious is more persistent and often less attached to a specific cause. Anxiety is a state of worry, fear, and unease that can exist even when there is nothing obviously wrong in the present moment. You feel anxious about the future in general, about what might happen, about everything and nothing all at once. And anxious can also describe a physical feeling, the tight chest, the racing heart, the inability to sit still and settle.
Yes, I've felt anxious before a big meeting, even when I was fully prepared. Like the anxiety wasn't about the meeting specifically, it was about everything all at once.
Exactly. And that's the nature of anxiety. It's broader than nervousness, more diffuse, less attached to one specific thing. And in everyday English, I'm feeling a bit anxious about this is completely natural and honest to say. You don't need to be in a clinical situation to use the word anxious. It describes a very common, everyday feeling.
Okay, burnt out, because I think this is one of the most important ones for our generation specifically.
Burnt out or burnout is one of the most significant emotional states of our time. To be burnt out means to be completely physically and emotionally exhausted as a result of prolonged stress or overwork. Not just tired, not just stressed, but depleted, like a fire that has burned through all its fuel and has nothing left to give.
And burnt out is different from just being tired, right?
Profoundly different. Tired is fixed by rest. Burnt out is not. Someone who is burnt out can sleep for 10 hours and wake up still feeling empty and depleted, because burnout is not just physical exhaustion, it's a depletion of meaning, motivation, and emotional reserves. It's what happens when you've given more than you had for too long without enough recovery.
That last line just hit me. When you've given more than you had for too long without enough recovery.
And the language around burnout matters because people who are burnt out often don't recognize it in themselves until it's quite severe. They think they're just tired or lazy or weak, and naming it as burnout changes the frame. It says this is not a character flaw. This is what happens when human beings are pushed beyond their sustainable limits for too long.
Okay, next one, resentful. Because I think resentful is one of the most powerful emotional words in English and one of the least understood.
Resentful or resentment is a feeling of bitter indignation at having been treated unfairly. It's anger that builds slowly over time rather than arriving suddenly. And what makes resentment particularly complicated is that it often accumulates in silence. You don't express the hurt in the moment, you absorb it, and then absorb the next one and the next until one day the accumulation is so large that even small things trigger a completely disproportionate reaction.
Yes, I've felt resentment in situations where I kept saying yes to things I wanted to say no to, and each yes added to a silent pile until the pile became unbearable.
And that's one of the most common sources of resentment, repeatedly suppressing your own needs or boundaries for the sake of others. And the irony of resentment is that it usually builds toward the people you love or care about most, because those are the relationships where you're most likely to suppress your own needs in the name of keeping the peace.
That is such a painful and true observation. Okay, next one, numb. Because I think a lot of people have felt numb, but maybe haven't had the word for that specific feeling.
Numb or emotional numbness is a state where you feel very little. Not sadness, not happiness, not even anger, just a kind of flatness, an absence of feeling, like the emotional system has gone quiet. And numbness often arrives after a period of very intense emotion, as if the nervous system decided it needed a break from feeling so much and simply switched off for a while.
Yes. I remember going through a very difficult period, and instead of feeling sad, I just felt nothing. And that nothing was in some ways more frightening than the sadness would have been.
Because sadness at least tells you that you're still engaged, still present, still connected to what happened. Numbness can feel like a disconnection, like you're watching your own life from a distance rather than living it from the inside.
That description is incredibly accurate. Okay, let's do a few more important ones quickly.
Let's do it.
Restless.
Restless means unable to relax or stay still, a constant feeling of wanting to move, wanting to do something different, wanting to be somewhere else. Restlessness is often a signal that something in your current situation is not aligned with what you actually need or want.
Yes, I've had periods of feeling restless where I couldn't sit with anything for long, couldn't commit to a book, a show, a conversation, just a constant unsettled energy.
And restlessness is worth listening to because it's often the signal that something needs to change, even if you can't immediately identify what.
Melancholic.
Melancholic is one of my favorite emotional words in English. It describes a gentle, thoughtful sadness, not a sharp grief, not a heavy depression, just a quiet, wistful sadness, often triggered by beauty or memory or the passing of time. You can feel melancholic listening to music on a rainy afternoon or looking at old photographs or watching a sunset and feeling something bittersweet about the beauty of a moment that's already ending.
Melancholic. That is such a beautiful word for such a specific feeling. I have felt that so many times and never had the English word for it.
And it is important because melancholic is not the same as sad in a heavy way. It is almost a pleasurable sadness, a reminder that you are alive and paying attention to the beauty and the transience of things.
Okay. Ambivalent.
Ambivalent means having mixed and contradictory feelings about something or someone, similar to conflicted, but slightly different. Conflicted usually implies a tension between two clear options. Ambivalent is more about uncertainty and mixed feelings, where you're not sure how you feel or you feel multiple things simultaneously without being able to resolve them into a clear position.
Like feeling ambivalent about a job you neither love nor hate?
Exactly. You do not want to leave because it's comfortable and pays well, but you don't feel passionate about staying either. That middle ground of neither strongly forward nor strongly against is ambivalence.
And one final one. Disconnected.
Feeling disconnected means feeling separated from yourself, from others, or from your sense of purpose, like the invisible thread that usually connects you to the people around you and to your own life has gone slack. You are present physically, but absent in some more essential way. And disconnection is one of the most common feelings of modern life precisely because we are more externally connected than ever through technology, while often feeling more internally isolated than any previous generation.
That last point is so important. More externally connected than ever, but often more internally isolated. That describes so many people right now.
And being able to say, I'm feeling a bit disconnected lately, is a profound act of self-awareness and honesty. It opens the door to addressing something that many people suffer through in silence because they don't have the language to name it or describe it to someone they trust.
Okay, before we wrap up, let's do a quick summary of all the words we covered today.
Let's do it.
Overwhelmed, completely submerged by the volume of what you're dealing with, too much to handle all at once.
Conflicted, two feelings or desires pulling in opposite directions simultaneously. You understand the situation but can't choose because both options feel right.
Anxious, a persistent state of worry and unease that's often broader than nervousness and less attached to one specific cause.
Burnt out, completely depleted physically and emotionally from prolonged stress or overwork, not fixed by rest alone.
Resentful, bitter indignation from feeling treated unfairly that builds slowly over time in silence.
Numb, an absence of feeling, emotional flatness that often arrives after intense emotion as a kind of protective shutdown.
Restless, unable to relax or settle, a constant feeling of wanting to move or change, often a signal that something needs to shift.
Melancholic, a gentle, wistful, thoughtful sadness triggered by beauty, memory, or the passing of time, almost pleasurable in its quietness.
Ambivalent, mixed and contradictory feelings about something, neither strongly for nor strongly against, unresolved in the middle.
Disconnected, feeling separated from yourself, from others, or from your sense of purpose, present physically, but absent in a deeper way.
Jake, that's 10 words. 10 words that describe real experiences that real people have every single day. And now you have the English to name them.
And I want to say one final thing before we close. Naming what you feel is not weakness. It is one of the most intelligent and most courageous things a person can do. Because you can't address what you can't name. You can't communicate what you can't express. And you can't connect with someone about something you can't articulate. The words you learned today are not just English vocabulary. They're tools for understanding yourself and for being understood by others.
That might be the most important thing Jake has ever said on this podcast. Naming what you feel is not weakness. It's one of the most intelligent and most courageous things a person can do. Subscribe to Real Talk Podcast and share this episode with someone who you think might need these words today. Someone who you sense might be feeling something they can't quite name. Because sometimes the most important thing you can do for someone is give them the language for what they're going through.
Take care of yourselves, everyone. Name what you feel. Speak it when you can. And know that whatever you're feeling right now, there's a word for it. And there's someone who understands. See you in the next one.
Bye, everyone.